If you know what imposter syndrome is, then great, and stick around for my top 3 tips on how to overcome it. But if you don't know what it is, also stay put, because I'll explain my personal experience with it in this video and how you can also overcome imposter syndrome if you have Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. Welcome back to my channel, the best place for Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis tips, tricks and information. So make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified every time I post a video. And if you want to join an exclusive community of people who receive tips and tricks on living with Crohn's and colitis and free content, make sure you sign up to my newsletter by visiting the link in the description box below. But for now, we'll just get straight into it. So imposter syndrome is basically where you start to believe that what you have achieved or what you have hasn't been legitimately achieved by yourself. You are basically doubting yourself and your own efforts. Now, in the case of Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, this can be the same, but essentially instead of what you have achieved, it can be replaced with the symptoms you are experiencing. You are basically doubting yourself that you are even experiencing these symptoms, which, believe me, are very, very real when you are going through it. So if you're familiar with my Crohn's disease story, then you would know that I was diagnosed with Crohn's in 2007 when I was 17. If you're not familiar with my story and want to know exactly what I went through, check out this video and I'll put the link for that in the description box below. But to summarize, throughout the time I was undiagnosed, I was constantly going back and forth to my doctors and being told that my symptoms were due to stress or a lack of fiber in my diet. And that the fix was simple: relax and eat a bit more bread. The more times I went to the doctors and the more times I was told the same thing did make me feel like I was making things up and that it was all actually in my head and that there was nothing wrong with me. It was only when I started noticing blood in my stool and that my health was in general declining quite dramatically, especially with the weight loss, only did my doctor start to take me more seriously, and eventually I was referred to a specialist when I got my diagnosis. So for that whole year, I felt like I was an imposter, and sometimes to this day I still do, because my Crohn's is in remission and my situation isn't as bad as some others. So this does bring me on, how do you overcome these feelings? So number 1, separate facts from feelings. Look at the facts. If you've achieved something or have certain symptoms, that is proof enough. Just because you feel like it's not real doesn't mean it isn't. Number 2, be proactive. So linking to the first point, if you separate the facts from feelings and you know that something isn't right and that you have stomach pains or you just don't feel right in yourself, then be proactive. Ask your doctor for a referral or even a simple blood test. Just don't take no for an answer and self-advocate for yourself if you must. Number 3 is learn your triggers. It doesn't matter if you're undiagnosed or diagnosed with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. If you know something triggers your feelings of imposter syndrome, then try your best to avoid those. So those are my top 3 tips on overcoming imposter syndrome. So if there is something that you do which I haven't mentioned, or if you feel like sharing, then leave it in the comments below and we can all learn from each other. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out these videos on more useful tips, tricks and information for Crohn's and colitis. Hit that subscribe button to be notified every time I post a video, as well as leaving a like and a comment if you enjoyed this and found it useful. And I can't wait to see you all in the next episode.